So there's a few people I saw bring out just fantastic takes on Ukraine. I feel a little shaken around on this one because I was on different panels with different people and had different conversations with different DSA members, and I was given the impression of, Dylan, don't be worried about DSA's position on Ukraine, right? The thing with like Claire Valdez and Daria Liza and like all that, this is just all like, it's just some old national policy, and most people don't believe this. And I do agree that most people that I've engaged with, at least a plurality of, I would even say plurality of DSA members, support Ukraine, and that the majority of people do not want to see Ukraine abandoned. It's a very unpopular position. But when it comes to DSA leadership, what the party line is when it comes from the international committee or just DSA national period, and what drips down to the local chapters and what they repeat to people who are asking to join the organization, it is still a hardline position against getting support for Ukraine and its fight for survival, and against doing what is right by the Ukrainians who we asked to disarm themselves under the assumption that something like this could never happen. Never happen. Don't worry. It's a new world. End of history. Either way, I was told by some people that, look, Dylan, this is old positions. Like this, you don't even know that this is the position they still hold. Well, now we have the DSA national co-chair, Megan Romer, they're doing this interview circuit where they're going on different cable news shows and different more traditional media publications who want to hear their views, and they just keep on pumping out bad after bad after bad interview. I have not seen a single interview done by a DSA representative that has ended in a way that I would think has helped the movement. So either the progressive movement, the socialist movement, the workers movement, I don't think there's really much, whether it was the ones done on cable news or the ones done with more traditional media. Now, that's not to say that they've never given a good answer. It's just that the bad always seems to outweigh the good. And the amount of times these people that are supposed to be representing the organization and have real titles, like real titles attached to their name, they just keep looking like a deer in headlights and having no good answers. And before some of the candidates, they would pivot. The people here, I think the ideologically committed ones who are talking to other people in the organization, the people who probably largely agree with them and are now talking to people who don't agree with them on this for sometimes the first time after 5 years, it feels like, they're not doing as well. Just look at this. Again, this is from the DSA National Co-Chair, Megan Romer. It's quite interesting.
The invasion of Ukraine, DSA's International Committee released a statement blaming NATO expansion and the United States essentially for the crisis. After the invasion, DSA released a statement condemning the invasion and calling for a ceasefire. And there have been people who have in DSA who have been even more firm about that it was mainly the United States' fault that Russia felt compelled to invade Ukraine. How do you feel about it?
We do not believe in pouring U.S. money, military weapons into anything. We don't think it makes it better anywhere. But obviously Russia is this oligarchic dictatorship, which is hyper-capitalist, and Putin is...
To me, that's fascinating, by the way. That's a fascinating part of the answer. If someone was to talk to me about the Russian invasion, and I was supposed to like grasp at things to show somebody that I don't agree with it, I would maybe talk about like a war crime, like, oh, they're hunting humans in Kherson. Oh, they're targeting like Ukrainian like history and stealing it. You know, there have been organizations that have said that Russia's engaged in like genocidal behavior. You know, they're displacing entire communities and replacing them with settler. Like, there's a bunch of things you could pull from. But hyper-capitalist is immediately the first one you go to. I understand being a socialist. I can understand being of a different economic philosophy than capitalism. But when describing to the general public, which is who you're trying to talk to, and like the intelligentsia class, those who would care about an Atlantic or a Wall Street Journal interview, saying, oh, they're hyper capitalist. Why would that be the first avenue of attack? There's a lot of countries that are hyper capitalist and that are not invading their neighbors, right? There's a lot of countries that have a aggressive, economy when it comes to wealth divides and all sort, and or people who have like very little regulation, but they're not invading their neighbors and changing the demographics of thousands and thousands of square kilometer of territory. It's just strange that this is like the first hyper capitalist. Okay.
Which is hyper capitalist, and Putin is this crazy right-wing oligarch. Of course, he is going to make horrific human life-ending decisions.
Well, isn't this precisely why those countries wanted to be in NATO?
Yes, but why aren't we doing any amount of actual diplomacy? Why aren't we doing any amount of sending actual human beings to talk to human beings and figure out what?
I don't understand what kind of there's been all kinds of diplomacy, however failed, since the beginning of the invasion. We shouldn't send weapons to the Ukrainians.
No.
So just allow Russia to overrun Ukraine entirely.
We should be sending huge teams of diplomats. We should be figuring out how to negotiate, how to get Russia off Ukraine's back. Yeah, absolutely.
So Russia would get off of Ukraine's back by us sending diplomats.
I don't think that there is adequate negotiation. I don't think that there has been anywhere near adequate diplomacy.
Okay, so there's a few things here. The first thing is, it really sounds like she's speaking down to him. Like these are ridiculously stupid questions. And then while speaking down to him, she gives an answer that reeks of so much naivete that I imagine there's I'm waiting for like a punchline. Like, we need to have human to human communication. What we need is a marriage counselor, and we could really get this war over. What we need to do is sit down, pass around some dabs, just get out some acid, put on the Pink Floyd album, and just let the differences and borders melt away. We've sent diplomats, we've sent third parties, we've had agents go over as intermediaries, both during the Biden administration and now in quite large quantity during the Trump administration, going so far as to allow a wanted man for kidnapping and trafficking children to enter in Alaska on a red carpet, who then after that meeting in public where we praised and did everything we could to make Russia seem glorious as they commit these atrocities in the human safari, the hunting of civilians, we then have this private meeting. What does Putin talk about? He talks about Reddit tier history. He talks about, Prince Yaroslav the Wise was here a long time ago, and therefore it's actually our land. And it's all ethnic grievances. It's all just old historical ethnic grievances. It's just ethnic grievance politics. And then you just put like a cute little bow on it, and you call it, expansion of the Russian world, protection of the Ruski Mir, whatever, and you put it out to sender. What is a diplomat going to do to change this? What is a diplomat going to do to change this? We have Russian drones trying to target German aircraft in Germany. And we're not talking like fighter jets. We're talking about like cargo planes. The Russians are engaging in behavior that seems to indicate that they're not in a diplomatic mood. Starting the war being one of the first major signs, and every single time they have turned down unilateral ceasefires being supplementary evidence. And the answer really is just send more diplomats. Engage seriously. Before, when Biden was in there, they didn't try at all. Trump went in there and he just trumped. Oh, he just did it bad. But if I was in there, where Clinton and Obama and Trump and Biden and everybody else failed, I am going to succeed. I'm going to succeed. Our movement's going to succeed because we're going to be human to human. We're going to get down there and we're going to really like have a conversation about praxis. We're going to have a conversation about how we feel. And we're going to talk about like what was really best for the region. And after that conversation, they're going to laugh in our face and they're going to collapse a civilian high-rise building with a ballistic missile. And then the headline will be something along the lines of 23 dead, 50 wounded, the war goes on. And that's, of course, in one strike in one city. Like what the only way this could work feasibly, if just sending more diplomats is the solution, is if if you expect we're going to send so many diplomats that they're going to storm the Kremlin and take it over. And it's actually it's a special operations mission in disguise. Like what we need to send teams of diplomats, human to human conversation. We don't need to send Ukraine anything to defend itself for the foreseeable future. No artillery, no armored vehicles, no engineering equipment to try to just stop the onslaught as more and more cities are put in range of the human safari. What we do is we talk. And then we talk some more. And then we talk with 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Like this isn't Nelson Mandela would call you a fool. Gandhi would call you a pussy. Like this isn't pacifism. This is just delusion. And I'm not trying to single out the DSA co-chair, but if your position is quite literally cut off all the supplies necessary to stop Russia from spilling into new cities and just send more diplomats until the situation figures itself out, then your position is the mass displacement and ethnic cleansing of many more cities being much more likely. And you can talk about it from we're from a principles, we're starting with our first principles and then moving out. You can justify it in whatever way you want. Your position is the one most likely to displace millions of more people. Your position is the one most likely to make it so many people cannot return to their homes and occupation. Your position is the one that is most likely to lead to the human safari and the amount of civilians that can be hunted daily expanding. The airstrikes killing more people. Your position has shown no ability to garner success. Before, it was simply stop adding fuel to the fire. Then Trump cut off the aid and did a minimal amount of weapon sales to keep the Ukrainians on. I won't even call it a lifeline. It's more of a water drip. And is the new position to cut off that water drip and then engage with more diplomacy, and that will be the final one to put the nail in the coffin of this war? And what if not? And what if we are in the situation where the Russians, having 11 time zones and wanting a 12th, decide this is the time to move? The Ukrainians are out of ammunition. The Ukrainians have no air defense. The United States has said they will no longer support them. Now is the time to crush them. And for Putin to deliver on his statement that Ukraine can only exist in 2 ways. One is as part of the Russian world. The other is not at all.
Is a Kurd.
Thank you so much for the $5. So I'm sorry, like the DSA position on Ukraine is a pro-war position. It leads to the war dragging out longer. It leads to the war being more violent. It leads to the war being morally decrepit in its worst manners, by it being not only the source of the United States and Russians going in there and saying this is what you can do with your atomic arsenal, this is what you can do with your post-war, but us then gutting their ability to defend themselves and then leaving them high and dry when one of the world's most pernicious and horrible to the people that is under its boot, one of the most horrible empires, puts its boot under its throat. And it's not gonna be, I mean, come on. How did Chechnya look after the bombing was done? How do you think Ukraine's gonna look if the worst was to come to pass? We can't just live in like a dream world where we just, I would like the world to be like this. This is the world that we have found, and this is the world we have to live in. And so we have to acknowledge that the Ukrainians live in it too, and they deserve a place in it. And that means if we decided that they had to give up their atomic arsenal, and our abandonment of them is going to cause a humanitarian catastrophe, then it is an immoral position for the left to hold. And it is also a position that the left cannot defend. I mean, this was one of her worst performances. She could not defend this position. And I have not seen DSA able to defend this position in any venue. And I've seen DSA aligned candidates that hold the position do everything they can to avoid and dodge the question, to dodge the position. And so is this just something that DSA is going to do its best to avoid at every possible turn as they are put under more scrutiny and media attention and under a magnifying glass? Is this something that they hope that DSA will eventually be able to just outgrow any possible damage the critique could do? But they're running in Democratic primaries. Democrats overwhelmingly support Ukraine. How are you going to perform in these primaries steadily and steadily performing well if you expect to try to have a bunch of issues that gain you nothing, that enrage that base in a bunch of tight races? I mean, like in Darliza's case, we're talking about like a 2% difference that could have changed that race. Like if she was more open about her position on Ukraine months prior, and that conversation developed at a faster pace, who knows what the outcome of that election could have been? My point is this is something that damages DSA. This is something that is very unpopular both in the United States, but also in the voting blocks that you need to win. And it's also a position that's highly immoral. And when you talk about an outcome-based morality, when you talk about what actually affects the people on the ground and is outside of the philosopher's corner in your book club and your internal struggle session, this is what can affect the lives of millions of people if the United States, one of the main backers of Ukraine, was to completely cut the umbilical cord or allow Trump's bleeding out situation, this slow drip that allows the situation to stagnate, continues. You either have the war dragging out longer or the war dragging out longer, but even more violently as the Russians are able to dig deeper and deeper into the country. So it's just a completely immoral position. It's an undefensible position. And I don't want to drag it out any longer and just say that DSA needs to address this, or they're going to keep running into this question and keep embarrassing them. Who donated? Somebody donated. Thank you for the $5, Cheryl Waitley.